Roman, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. Thank you.
Before we start talking, would you just please, for people that are still unaware of the facts and the numbers surrounding depression and suicide rates for men in this country, would you just give us a few of the headlines that you feel we really need to understand?
Absolutely. I still think the most shocking thing still is it's the biggest killer of men under the age of 50, which I'm presuming is everyone in this room right now. I'm not looking at you too long, Will, don't worry. But no, it's the biggest killer of men under the age of 50. It's the biggest killer of women under the age of 35. I think the one that always stifles a lot of people is the 1 in 4, which is that 1 in 4 men will experience some form of suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideation throughout their life. It's a completely normal thing to have, that feeling of waking up and thinking to yourself, I don't want to be here anymore. It's something that I've certainly had at different stages of my life. It's something that friends that I know have had, and you have to pull people out of those moments. But still, I think the shocking factor that it's 1 in 4 still doesn't resonate with some people.
Yeah.
And I actually first explained that in a football sense. I was like, imagine at the Emirates every weekend you got 60,000 people. If I took 1 in 4 out of them, so that's 15,000 people out. That is a hell of a lot of people in that stadium. And visually, you can see just how many people that is. I think as well, when it comes to suicide in this country, especially in the UK, 1 person every 90 minutes takes their life. So that is 1 game of football. And it was just one of those weird kind of things that when we dug into the data and looked at it, that it kind of was almost synonymous with football at the same time. And those stats still aren't kind of talked about enough within the demographic. I still find it shocking that the demographic doesn't know just how big of a risk it is to them. In men under the age, put it this way, in men under the age of 50, their biggest risk to them in dying is themselves. And, yet we're still looking on Instagram for what's the health benefits of this. What can I do this? How do I avoid this disease, or how do I avoid looking like this? That should be a focus. And that should be a focus on as many people as possible's lives, whether that be women or men. And, then when we dug even deeper in terms of, the realizing that the first conversation with someone, when you open up and say that you've been having those suicidal ideations or suicidal thoughts, your actual risk of suicide decreases massively, percentage-wise, just from physically coming out of your mouth to another human being. Your chance percentage comes down huge. And that for me was the big pitch that I tried to put to the Premier League. And it was like, you've got the demographic. You are a honey trap, to these people, and you can really use it in a positive way. I
think the work that you're doing with the Premier League is amazing. And congratulations, because often people think they want to do something and they either don't, or they don't think as big as you've thought. But to go to the Premier League and get something involving all the Premier League clubs and the biggest football league in the world is amazing. And congratulations.
Thank you, man.
I think the most important thing for me, from everything that you've just said, I think there's 2 things actually. The first one is that having suicidal thoughts is totally normal, right? Yeah. It's what I often say, like, if Stephen King can imagine the things he writes in his books, his horror stories, right?
Yeah.
The human brain has the ability to write horror stories, right?
Yeah.
The trick is not to believe the horror story you're writing is real, right? Yeah. When I was in therapy, that was the biggest moment for me, when the therapist said, it's a thought, it's not a fact. I was like, wow. I think the other important thing that you just mentioned is, as soon as you say to people, I've been having suicidal thoughts, the chances of you carrying out that act decreases hugely. So if you 2 are cool with this, I would really like the 3 of us, as 3 men of varying ages. Yeah. One of us not quite in the under 50 demographic as of a couple of weeks ago, but almost.
You're not in the under 50?
Thanks for being shocked about that, Ralph.
I was actually shocked.
Oh, mate, you.
Oh.
50 in 2 weeks.
Oh, no, I was being serious.
I'd love us just to have a conversation, right, for the next hour or so.
Yeah.
That by the end of this, mum, dad, brother, sister, man, woman, auntie, uncle, grandparent, child, if they've heard this conversation and they're having these thoughts, and let's say if 100,000 people are listening right now, that's 25,000 people that are having these thoughts, that at the end of this conversation, our listeners or our viewers think, all right, I'm going to tell someone that I've had suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, that's it. And I always go back to it. I'm like, the thing that shocked me the most, right? The thing that hits me is when you go around and you know, for the last over 5 years now, where I've been deep into, you know, data and sort of talking to doctors and psychotherapists and things like that. If I went out and said to the general public, if I said, what does a suicidal person look like to you? They'd all say they're like, if I said draw it, right? They'd be like, oh, they're lying down on a psychotherapist's like long leather chair and they're explaining to them why they hate their life and they hate themselves. And it's like, it's just not true. Like a suicidal person doesn't look like that. If anything, they're the opposite. The only tie I could make, because, you know, when you lose someone through suicide or you've had those suicidal thoughts yourself, the grief is so like, sorry, I was going to swear. The grief is so bad because you're like, it's so confusing. Like you deal with anger, you deal with confusion. It's like someone's murdered your mate, but the murderer was your mate. And you know, you're just going, so you don't know who to be angry at. And you're just, you know what I mean? There's this horrible thing that you've got going on. And the only correlation that I had from speaking to every single person that I met throughout this whole journey, and it's still the same now, the same answer that comes back whenever I say, you know, did you see any signs or did anything like that? I always say, they were the last person you would have expected. The last person you would have expected.
There's the sign.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's the person at the party that's all going for it. They're the people that no one is asking, how are you? Because you presume they're fine. The people you presume are fine are the ones that really probably aren't. Like, you know, and that's why I, you know, go back to it. The Norwich City video that they did was the best kind of representation of suicide I've ever seen. You know, they released, for those people that don't know what it is, it was the video that they put out. You're a great club.
The greatest football club. Producing the greatest content.
But it was a phenomenal video. It was a shot of two guys. If you've never seen it, please go and watch it. It's two guys and they're going to the football and there's one who sat there and he's very somber, he's very quiet, he's obviously got a lot going on in his head, and like the team score and he's not really clapping, he's kind of like, but the guy next to him is so enthusiastic, you know, putting his arms around everyone saying, well, you know, come on, let's do this, how great was that, etc. And then at the end of the video we realized that that's the guy that's passed away, the happy one. And that was, you know, I lived that experience. Like I had that experience, you know, with my best mate. It was the exact same thing. I was talking to him about, man, I've been having these thoughts. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going to therapy. I'm taking this drug. I'm doing this. Like, you know, and he was always there for me, pulling me out of that, to the point where I never thought to ask that question to him, because I looked at him as like, you got that figured out. And then all of a sudden, bang, gone. Because, you know, and that's the horrible reality of it, I think.
Have you managed to get any closure on that?
Yeah, bits and bobs. Yeah, but I thought the thing is that, like, you know, this I've spoken about what I've been through a million times. We made documentaries about it, but I think the thing is that still goes on in so many different families and different people's lives every single day, every 90 minutes. Yeah. Someone goes through that same situation that we went through, where you get that phone call, you get that knock on the door from the police, you know, and that is earth-shattering. And I think, again, it's like, what people don't understand is that, like, for one suicide, they've ranked it out to about, one suicide affects 180 people around that one person, whether that be in a small way or a big way. You know, and I always, it goes down to that thing of, there was always a stigmatism around, like, one, people saying the word suicide, they don't want to say that, right? They just don't like that word. Two, there was always a stigma around when someone did die of suicide, you can't say it's selfish. You can't say that. You can't shame them. You know, that's their decision. They did what they want to do. But it's like, that's not the reality. And I think, you know, Joe's mum is the best example that I still will ever have in my life of someone that has been through it. And obviously, you know, her son has taken his own life. And I remember saying to her, if you could really think about the one thing that you'd want to say to that person that is suicidal or having those thoughts, what would be that one thing that you'd just be like, just let me go in there and just let me say this before you do anything. And she kind of fronted it in a way that was like going against the grain of what you should do. And she just said, look, whatever you think you're going through in that point, or in that moment, and no matter how bad it is for you, you are not getting rid of any of that pain. You are not getting rid of it. You're not making anything stop. All you are doing is transferring how bad that is in your head to every single person that you love. And that's true, you know? And I'd never heard someone kind of say it that kind of bluntly before.
You know what, Ron? It reminds me of, we interviewed Alfie Boe, the singer, and he told us something similar, didn't he, when he tried to take his life. And it was when he was recovering in the hospital. He said the nurse came to him and she wasn't compassionate. She told him the stats on the likelihood of his children subsequently going on to take their life had increased massively.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And he said that was the moment when he realised that it was selfish what he was doing. He wasn't thinking about it from the perspective of other people. But
that's it. But again, all of those things and those conversations don't happen unless, like, the tough thing with this, right, is that you've got two sides to it. You've got the one where it's like, you know, if I go outside and I say to everyone, how do you solve the suicide crisis? How do you solve it? What do you do? It's the majority of questions, the majority of answers that I will get back are, men, they've just got to talk more, got to talk more. And that is true. But then there comes an action point where you are done with talking, where I've been there, where I've done the talking bit, I've told people, I still don't want to be here. How do I press the reset button? And at that point, there has to be an action. And the issue is that where we are right now in society and you know, how it currently is in the UK, you just can't be seen. You are not priority at all. Like, that's just a fact, right? You're going to be on a waiting list for 18 months. If you have tried to kill yourself, maybe it'll reduce down to 8 months.
Yeah, wow.
But like, that's not enough time. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you've tried to attempt to take your own life, it's going to be quite soon after that. Potentially you might do it again. So that's not enough time. So that's why something like this, that, you know, that we've been doing, it was kind of my way of just looking at it, trying to see it from a logical perspective and go, okay, who can see the person as quickly as possible? And the best thing about that is it's actually the local charities that are around them, you know, that can act as a better version of what that person needs. Because 99% of the time, someone that is for the first time experienced a suicidal thought thinks, oh my God, something's wrong with me. Let's go to A&E right now. Do you know what I mean? Or like even their family member might say to them, oh my God, you've got to go to A&E. Like, you know, what do you do? I mean, we all know we've been to A&E at some point. The worst place in the world that you could possibly go if you are having a mental breakdown, which is what it is, right? The worst place in the world, right? Not because of the work that the doctors are doing, just because the environment is so bad. And then after that, it will then be the waiting list scenario. Whereas these local charities, they know who you are, they know the area you come from, you know, they potentially know your socioeconomic state. They can speak to you like someone that is from where you're from. And they can see you within some cases the same day or 2 to 3 days, you know, and sometimes those smaller charities, they're not heard about. So that's why it was all about with this. It was like, you know, linking a football club to all of those local charities that can see them quicker. It's not saying it's not, you know, and Samaritan's kind of overlooking the whole thing, you know, and working with those smaller charities. But being able to take the pressure off the NHS and those waiting lists, and then 2, have the kind of lure of football to kind of say, look, we're your football club and we like this charity and we like this local place that you can go and chat to.
Let's be honest. Parenthood gives you the highest highs and the lowest lows. It can drain you, it can challenge you, it can push you to your limits, your time, your energy, your focus, it's all gone. And how often do you feel like you're just running on empty? And then it's so hard to show up and be that parent that you really want to be. And high performance, by the way, isn't just about big wins. It isn't about victories. It's about showing up consistently for the people and the things that matter the most. And that is why I take Vitals from Heights. This is just 2 capsules. You take them once a day and it's got omega-3, all the B vitamins, iron, D3, 20 essential nutrients. And what's really important actually for me personally is that I know this is designed by doctors and dietitians. I know it's been tested again and again and again. It takes me seconds to take these capsules, but it gives me that stamina, that focus, that better sleep, that mental clarity that just lasts and lasts. All of the things that I think help me to be the dad that I want to be and not the dad that's so tired he can't play with his kids. And if you don't trust me, maybe you'll trust the science. Maybe you'll trust the 120,000 people that take Vitals and they take it for a good reason. So if you want to feel sharper, more focused, more in control throughout your day, just go to heights.com/HP and use the code HP20 for 20% off, or easily just click the link in the description. Look, aging happens to all of us, but feeling old, I believe, is totally optional. And I actually started noticing just recently some little subtle changes. I had slower recovery after my workouts. I was a bit stiffer. I just had whole days where I just felt like my energy wasn't there. I just felt like a bit ugh. And that's when I found this. This is Qualia Senolytic, and this is a breakthrough formula that actually helps your body to naturally clear out senescent cells. They're also known as zombie cells, right? They kind of stick around, they drain your energy. They're cells that make you feel sluggish, a bit sore, just basically older than you should. And what's cool about this is you only take Qualia Senolytic 2 days a month. It's plant-based, it's got a vegan formula, and it will support your body's natural process to just get rid of those cells. And since I started, I've had more energy, I recover faster. That kind of spark that I thought was gone forever feels like it's back. And if you would like to get involved, check it out at qualialife.com/performance for up to 50% off, and use code performance for 15% off, or just click the link in the description. Go to qualialife.com/performance. Your future self will thank you. And thanks to Qualia for partnering with High Performance. I think something else that's important for us to talk about, right, is this sense that we feel like if you're broken, you're in therapy, and then you get repaired and you never need to go to therapy again. And I still feel sometimes we have these triumphant conversations where people will say to us, even on this show, don't they? They go, well, I'm not in therapy anymore. I've got through that. And it's like, that doesn't necessarily need to be the case. You can not be broken and still be in therapy. I mean, I wonder how hard having these conversations has been for you, and whether that has caused some issues.
Yeah. I called my therapist last week. I said I need to come back in.
Yeah.
Like I said, I need to come back in. I'm like down, like, you know, really down, and like, you know, and right now I'm not in a great place in the sense of I feel like I'm very overworked and overstressed right now, and I think the mixture of kind of, you know, personal life stuff and then dealing with talking about suicide, it is really draining, like, on anyone, you know. And so I think for me, I was like, look, you know, the other week I need to make that call. And, you know, even my parents, you know, say to me, they're like, have you spoken to you know, therapists about it? Do you want to go in and have a chat with them? I was like, yeah, totally. Whenever I go in, I know that I'm going to feel so amazing when I leave. It's kind of like, I don't know, like I've really struggled to leave emotions really somewhere else other than when I go to therapy.
Have you had therapy? Because that's actually something I've never asked you in 5 years of working together.
Yeah.
Currently. You never asked that?
No.
I'm sorry.
No.
I feel awkward, sorry.
But isn't that, that's an interesting insight into two guys that work together all the time? Like, what, currently or previously? Or?
No, previously, yeah.
Yeah. And did you feel like that? Like, because, you know, I always try to explain that feeling, because so many of my mates have always been like so terrified about going to therapy, because they all think someone's going to sit there and tell me how I should feel, when really I come out there and I've realized that I've asked myself a load of questions and I've come out with all the answers.
No, for me it was, I'd just become a dad, and it was about 18 months in, and I realised, I had a persistent cough, and I went to the doctor, and he said to me, go and look at yourself in the mirror. I was like, what? And he was like, you've not got a cough, you're on the edge of a breakdown, mate.
Really?
Yeah, and he was like, look, it was just overwork, like being a dad and thinking I needed to provide, so not saying no to anything.
Yeah, just over worrying about everything.
But overworking as well, just trying to do everything. And
I mean, you know, you have said a few times, I'm absolutely exhausted, I'm overwhelmed. I mean, I do think there is a reason why people have to say yes to everything. And it isn't just because they're ambitious. Sometimes it is because I do think it masks
absolutely
a lot of other stuff.
Absolutely. I think I'm 100% one of those people. Like, I'm 100% one of those people where it's like, if I can, and that's, to be honest, it's when I look at it, you know, really honestly about why it matters to me to progress the suicide chat and try and almost force it as work means that I don't have to front it up as personally and emotionally as possible. Does that make sense? It's kind of like I'm compartmentalizing it as that's work. I need to go and talk about it.
Yeah.
I met a psychiatrist recently, a brilliant woman called Judith Joseph, who's got a book called High Functioning Depression.
Right.
And I was telling Jake about it, that my wife was reading the book and we were in bed and she was like, asked me a series of questions.
Yeah.
And she was like, I think you might be one of the high functioning.
What were the questions like?
Well, it was just like, when like, do you overwork? When you have any degree of success, do you immediately move on from it and start planning the next one? Do you struggle to create close relationships because you move in from one task to another? So when I spoke to Judith Joseph, this was the point she was making, a bit like your example before, about draw a picture of a suicidal person.
Yeah.
And she was like, describe somebody with depression and people assume it's someone that can't get out of bed or they're struggling. And yet she was saying the amount of high functioning depressives that are out there working hard, providing, just relentlessly not stopping. But she said it's the inability to feel what she described as happiness. There was a word like it was called eudaimonia.
Right.
But the ability not to feel joy because you don't allow yourself to let the barriers down.
But that do you know that I felt like I had that for a long time, like because I was on antidepressants for so long. It was like 15. It was when I was 15. I started having real thoughts about killing myself. Yeah. And then my mum.
Did they just like come out of the blue one day? Like you were a happy kid and then
kind of. I mean, it's a better question for my mum, to be honest. But like it was.
Have you asked her?
Yeah, she kind of said that it was a difficult one because from when I was like 14, it almost developed. It was almost like it became my identity to be more depressive, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like, and then you don't know, and then you're kind of like trapped in this thing of like, but she was worried because she couldn't put that down to teenage angst type vibe, like my son's becoming a teenager.
And were you anxious and generally in life?
No, my anxiety's always been high. Like I do have high anxiety levels, but it was more so. I remember very clearly saying to the doctor when I was younger, being like, it feels like every day I'm waking, there's a cloud. There's like, when you wake up on a day and it's really sunny and you can look outside and it looks really nice and most people go, oh, this is a really nice day. Yeah. Mine was a constant thing of like, it's about to rain. That's how it felt. And that's the only way I could kind of describe it. And then, so then I ended up, taking fluoxetine for a long time. And then subsequently changing to different types of antidepressants, just because they change, and then I got to a point where I was listen, I'm far better now than what I was 2 years ago. I'm just in a moment where I'm just working a lot and that type of thing. But last year I kind of got to a point and I was like, I'm really good in my life. I feel I'd left Capital and I was just like, I've got time to breathe a little bit, because whilst that's the greatest job on earth, it was like relentless, right? So I said I wanted to come off them because I wanted to try, professionally come off them, like tapering down dosages and working with the doctor. And it was because I felt like I'd never really experienced actual happiness but at the same time, I'd never experienced real sadness because again, very personal question. Don't feel like you have to answer. Have any of you done antidepressants before? No, that's what I'm saying. So it's like, again, they really helped me for a long time, for an amazingly long time. But what they can do, and you have to be wary of it, obviously, and speak to your doctor, is that they can numb you in many different ways. And the best example that I can have is that like I'd watch my dosage would be like pretty high, and I would recognize it in weird moments where I almost kind of felt like if I was watching a horror movie, if a jump scare came on the screen, it would take me a second to realize that it was a jump scare. And I'd be sat there like just watching it. And my mates would be like, you're not, I would be like, oh, sorry, I've only just realised it's happened.
5 minutes later, you're screaming.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, but it does. They numb you, and so the last year for me has been really amazing, scary, but amazing.
So you're not on the antidepressants now?
No. And don't get me wrong. If I get to a point where I don't like it, I will go back. Absolutely, because that's my life. I'd rather feel good. But I think what's been amazing is that I've been able to properly, I guess, cry. I've been able to experience happiness or sadness or anything like that. And so it's just my body's just navigating everything at the minute.
And have you used any particular tools then during that year that you've been off them to be able to regulate your emotions?
No, not really. Like, the only constant that I have in my life is football. Like, if I'm genuinely honest, I have to play football once a week. Like, I have to. Like it's the only thing. I always say it's my favorite part of my week. I play with my guys that are the same mates that I've had since I was 7 years old. So it's what my parents love it, obviously, because it's school kids. And we have a 7-a-side team. So it's like, I have to have that as part of my week. That's the only thing I can really have as a constant, I guess.
But that, I think, is important, because I think that we still feel like if you have things that are good for your mental health, then it has to be a group or a class or a medication or a meeting, or like, it actually isn't. What's the best thing for your mental health?
Walking my dog.
Is it?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Cutting the lawn for me.
Is it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I feel like a different person. I feel more creative. I feel calmer. I think I'm a better dad. I think I'm a better husband. Because I think that we sort of have this feeling that we have to do big things to improve our mental health. And it's about like exploring and finding what these little things are.
Yeah.
And you know what? We have done almost 500 episodes. What percent of people that have sat in the chair Romans in do you think are truly like content and happy and loving life?
10.
I would have said less than 10%.
Would you?
This is the mad thing though, isn't it? Well, we speak to the people at the top of fame, at the top of success, at the top of wealth, at the top of achievement, and they are not happy people.
Mate, like nail on the head, right? That's like, for me, growing up, I was so lucky that I got to witness fame at different levels, constantly.
What do you mean by that?
So, like, growing up, I have like my mum's level of fame, right? So my mum's level of fame is every now and again in WH Smith's, someone would come up to her and go, loved Wham, loved Pepsi and Shirley. Do you know what I mean? That would be it. Then you have my dad's level of fame, which is when we go to the football, everyone's going up to him. It's it's more so I'm watching him on TV all the time. He's winning NTAs, that type of fame. On the airplane, the air stewards are coming over and blah blah blah. That type of fame. Then I had a godfather in George Michael that was beyond fame. Like, we go on holidays in the airport, half the airport will get shut down because he has to go through. Like, genuinely. And you're like, this is insane. Like, he didn't leave the house, or like, my mum used to explain to me, Yog doesn't go, his Greek name is Yogios, so it's Yog to us. My mum would be like, Yog doesn't go to Tesco. Like, he can't. This is when I was really little and like understanding. And I really remember as well, like, when he did the Outside video, and it was kind of like he came out, as gay, but I always obviously knew he was gay my whole life because him and his boyfriend Kenny were like my uncles, like in our house. But then I remember being like, why is this a big thing? Why is it in the newspapers that Yog's got a boyfriend? And then my mum having to explain about the fame side of that and how that's affecting him personally, etc. And you see it on that scale. That is the last thing I would want in my life, to live like that. Like 100%. So then I've got this weird juxtaposition of like, yes, I'm in our line of work, right? As presenters, you're like, yeah, you want to be successful, but I don't want to be famous. Like, that's the genuine answer. Yeah. It's the only real answer that I can give, which is I want to be successful, but the fame side I'm terrified of and I really dislike.
And would you ever kind of negatively impact your own career to avoid becoming...
No, that's where I find it difficult.
It's hard, isn't
it? Because I find it difficult. It's not about... I think it's not about... Because you can look at it and go, people can listen and go, well, you did shows like I'm a Celeb, but it's like, yeah, but I loved that. Like, and I love the fact that, and you guys will be the same. Like, you get to have conversations with I'm sure some of your guests that you have, unbelievable. So it's like that, and you can call that work. Yeah. I have to try and navigate my work for me and not think about it. Like, I've never thought about work in the sense of what's going to make me more famous. Like, that is never. And unfortunately and unfortunately, when you do a job on a presenting scale and you see like artists come in early or actors are early, you see the ones that have got it wrong. And you can tell they like that side of it more. And you kind of want to say to them, like, I've seen behind the curtain and it ain't good. Do you know what I mean? So it's like that from that perspective, it's that plays a lot in my mindset all the time.
So what did you see? So when you say you've got it wrong, so what is getting it right?
I really don't know. I think that's what I'm still trying to figure out. And that's where I struggle, because I struggle with the fact of being like, I'm not enjoying this. I want to step off the treadmill, but at the same time, I want to be able to give my family, my future family, the opportunity, the opportunities that I've had growing up, and I still love my job. But, if someone says to me, oh, do you want to go and shoot something with a bunch of footballers next week? Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah. But that with that, there's pros and cons to our job, which is, you've got the pro of you get to meet the person, you get to do this amazing thing and call it work. But the con of it is afterwards, you've got the fame side of it, which, you kind of wish you could deplete that. What is it? Everyone always says, drummer of Coldplay, best job in the world.
Mate, pretty well paid, I imagine.
Yeah.
And you can go in any airport, you're in Coldplay, you get the thrill on the stage.
That's what I mean.
And then afterwards, you can walk to the tube with everybody else.
Hey, that's it, man.
It's the dream.
But that's it.
That. Why do you think so many people we've spoken to on here are successful but not happy?
Well, there's like a shadow side of everything. I don't know if you agree with this one, but the drive that gets you not to be willing to settle for a status quo, to go after that feeling of discomfort, to go after your ambitions.
Yeah.
The shadow side of it is inevitably that you're never satisfied. There's always another mountain to conquer.
Because I think football is such an interesting area for you to talk about mental health, because I think people have so little disregard for the mental health of footballers.
Oh, wow, yeah, 100%.
So I sent some messages to some friends of mine. Every single one of these messages comes from a footballer playing in the top flight.
Okay.
So the best of the best of the best, right? And my question to them was, is mental health in elite sport improving or getting worse, and how are you finding it? And I've got a voice note from a manager, a top flight manager, which I'll play us in a second. We're going to disguise his voice so that people at home, he can remain anonymous. But these are the messages from some of the players. And I just think this is so interesting for people to hear this.
Absolutely, I'm interested,
Particularly if they're at home going, I'm going to be happy when I'm successful. If I can just be successful, my mental health challenges will disappear and everything will be great. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So these are what the players said. And again, we're going to keep these anonymous. How can I possibly tell people I'm struggling with the salary I'm on?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, being intense was the reason I became a professional footballer. Now it's knackering me out and I'm just not happy. I think that's so interesting.
Yeah.
My advice, and these are all from different players, my advice, come off socials, develop an ironclad mind before you go back on. I mean, does such thing even exist? Another player said, our game is dominated by player isolation. Another comment, I don't play with a single footballer who is free on the pitch because of the fear of the fan criticism, which is killing us.
Wow.
We're told we can talk openly about mental health, but really, can we? Would a club sign a player who seems flawed or unreliable because of their mental health? I believe it's seen in the same way as a player being injury prone.
Yeah.
They need to see our mental struggles, not just our physical ones. But in the end, we're simply a commodity that people want to buy and sell. A message from a manager who was also a player at one of the biggest clubs in the country before he was a manager. Support has increased, but so has scrutiny and criticism. So I believe the current mental health of footballers in the UK is net zero. As a culture, we need to change our obsession with failure in this country. Manchester United and Rangers are the two prime examples. I mean, I think this is such a line. He says, as a culture, we're fucked because we take comfort in others failing and we hate the success of others.
Yeah.
I'll play you this voice note as well.
Well, like, what's your reaction when you hear that?
I totally agree. I think I actually had a conversation with someone else who's in the game with the same thing, and we were talking about it's so scary where we are right now, I think, and it doesn't play well into no wonder people are struggling, because we are currently in a society where shame is king. Like, I think if you can find a way to shame someone, it's like people are baying for it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's the society we live in, is how can we shame the next person? And I think that, as opposed to looking at and celebrating the wins of people, do you know what I mean? Wherever you can, I think that plays into it massively.
We love it, don't we? When someone gets shamed, like when they're on the front page of the paper and they've done something, or something's happened, and their entire world and career is collapsing around them. People just dive on it, don't they?
That's it. Yeah.
So this is a message from a current manager.
It depends how you define mental health. In elite sport, people must be more resilient because they face constant threat, criticism, and scrutiny. Social media has amplified that noise. But does that improve overall mental health? I am not convinced. Many young men I work with have no real sense of self outside the game. They do not know their values or what matters to them. They just get through it. That is why Snooze is so big now in football, and why others copy it. It used to be nights out and drinking. I do not know which is better. Players use social media for validation and praise because they crave attention. So, yes, they have become more resilient. But I am not sure mental health has improved. Dressing rooms may be less toxic now, and there is more awareness of bullying from senior players or coaches. Inside the game, it is easier to be accepted and to be yourself. Outside the game, the pressure remains.
Well, I'm not sure there is a definitive answer, but if you actually break down what was being said there, using snus, which is the tobacco that they shove up in their gums to dull their senses, being impacted by social media, having no sense of self, following the crowd, looking for external validation. We're talking about elite footballers, right? We're talking about people in professional sport, but all of the things that manager was talking about are the things that are also affecting the young people in our country who are not elite sports people. Because I think almost every response from these professional footballers that they sent us is this lack of freedom. None of us are free on the pitch because of scrutiny.
I think, again, that boils down to, that's also, I think, it terrifies me, like, even just thinking, imagine even when I was at school, if we had phones in lessons, like, and the level of, like, ability to message that kids do now at school and stuff like that, the instantaneous nature of it all, about, straight away they've seen a post and they want to chat about it. That level scares me. I think going back to the clubs, taking that from two perspectives, it's like the clubs are trying what they can. Certain clubs certainly that I know of are really trying to push, developing and helping with the mental health of the players, the staff, as well, and I look at someone like Per Mertesacker at Arsenal, for instance. I know that they have that going on at the club, where especially around, you got to think of the young kids that also get dropped from, being able to go through at the age of 12, 13, 14, 15, up to 16, and then all of a sudden, no, you're not playing anymore. That's it, you're out. Like, that is a massive part of the game that isn't spoken about enough, and the kind of following up issues of that, especially within mental health. But I think when it comes to anyone at the elite level of their game, it's like, it's in the same way. Okay, so put it this way, it's like, take Tom Grennan, who I do my podcast with, right? So I speak to Tom a lot of the time, and Tom has his things in his head, and when we chat, it's like, I get it, totally get it. Like, he's at the elite level of artistry, that everyone kind of craves for. You want the sellout tour, etc.
Yeah.
But then he's at a rehearsal, or he arrives at an arena, and then when those artists get there, they then look around and realize that, shit, basically everyone is here because of me, like, and no one gets paid if I don't turn up. Like, when I mean everyone's here, it's like the lighting guys, the stage people, the sound people, all of it. Like, they're all somehow on a payroll that's linked to this person. And then comes the scrutiny of, like, do I want that pressure? Do I want, that level of people? And then people saying, it's not good enough. And then you start worrying about, are we going to get the next tour? And are these people going to lose their jobs? I think anyone at that elite level, those things are on their mind constantly. So those messages don't shock me. I thought it was interesting about Snooze, numbing, everything.
Yeah.
Having that kind of numbness that I got from antidepressants.
You can see the link, can't you?
It's basically that.
Yeah.
If that's how
that's footballers self-medicating, right?
Yeah. That's
basically what
like.
they're doing. One of the reasons why I'd really had enough of being a football presenter was the encouragement for people to row. Like for you to be, asking questions. Should a referee be dropped from the next game? Should a 17-year-old doing their best not play next week? Should a manager be sacked? Like, what shit questions to be asking people on national television to try and get a rise from a pundit to have a punchy answer so it does numbers on social media. Yeah. And then that person has to go home, or that manager or that player or referee has to go home and hear it. And I see all these football podcasts now. We were watching some just before you came in. So critical.
Yeah.
We got to change the narrative of how we talk about other people.
I think that's always the thing. Like even for me, this year I've started on Sky Sports, right? So for me, it's like I do think about those thoughts all the time, and I do think like, what's the clever way around this situation or around this conversation? Because at the end of the day, those conversations are going to be there. You can't eliminate.
You're brave going in that world. And I wish you the best. I found it really difficult. And
it is.
You try being a football presenter and have a podcast called High Performance.
Yeah.
You will just get the shit ripped out of you from every two-bob podcast presenter who hasn't, it was awful.
But you have to think as well, like from the same perspective, it's like, mate, from the first day I went to school, I was getting pelters from people. Yeah, because I was the celebrity kid.
Right.
So it's like, again, it's hard to, and it affects me sometimes. Sometimes it affects me, and sometimes I'll come home or and I'll call my mates, I've got the most amazing mates in the world that are like so good with me because
where were they from? Like, where did you
pick
up those
mates? Northwest London.
But I mean, like, where did you...
primary school.
From primary school?
Yeah, from primary school,
So long before they knew you were the celebrity kid?
They knew, but they've now known me long enough. Like, so when I remember going to prep school, right? And that was like primary school and like joining, and everyone already knew. And like the teacher, some parents would tell their kids to hang out with me because they wanted to be invited to the house.
You knew that even as a kid?
Oh, yeah. But you can tell, man. Like, I don't know, it's like a weird sixth sense. Me and my sister have it. I can tell. I know. Right. I know. I used to know, and my mum used to be like, no, like she can see it.
Because one of the most gifted books that I over the last 2 years, so Jake knows this, that I've given out to friends and guests that we've had on, is a book by an Australian psychologist called Steve Biddulph called Manhood.
Right.
And it's all about how we help young men navigate their way through into adulthood. And one of the things that he often talks about is your relationship with your father, whether you have one or not. It still leaves scarring, or it leaves you ways to do it. So how did your dad help you navigate what must have been quite a confusing period of your life?
I don't know. My dad's always been my best mate. He's always been my best mate. He's never, he's always validated every emotion that I've ever felt. Like, he's never told me that, people aren't doing that. It'd always be, I don't know, he's always looking for the better in people, always, right. And I'm so lucky that he's like that. Sometimes he's too like that.
Right.
Like, to the point where, like, if you tell my dad a story, if I say to him, I seen this, I'd be like, oh, did you see that film that was on Thingy the other day? He'll go to me, yeah, just because he wants me to carry on the story and he wants me to, nice. like not to kill the vibe. Yeah. So he's that type of guy. That's why I would say sometimes he's too nice. But no, I think he's always been my best mate. He's always been someone that I've always been so proud of. So it's never been a case of like I've got mates who are, mates that don't want to attach their surname to them and like pretend they've got a different surname because they've got a famous parent. It's like, I'm so lucky, man, that the two people that I'm most proud of in this life are my parents. And like, so whenever someone kind of linked friendship or anything like that to them, I'd just kind of look at it as like, well, I'm lucky that.
But I mean, but that instance, I've never thought of it from that, of people wanting to be a mate so they can come round for tea or whatever.
Yeah.
How would your dad help you navigate of choosing a good mate versus someone?
He never really would. Like, he would always. I don't know. That conversation was always more my mum. My mum was always very up on that. My mum was always very like cautious. My mum's always very aware, like of. I don't know, like. Put it this way, like I would always be very aware of, like, even if we went for dinner, we used to go to like an Ask Pizza or something like that, and like I would hate it, and I would always say to my parents, "Those people are looking at us. Those people are looking at us." So this is when I was like 6.
Yeah.
And it would always be my dad just be like, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." My mum would be like, "Who is it?"
Excuse me, we're having a family meal.
Yeah,
Can
exactly.
you just look the other way?
But I'm quite like her in that sense. But
Have you made any friends as an adult that come close to those primary school mates?
yes. Yeah, absolutely. One of the best friendships that I have in my life is one of my best mates who has absolutely no idea who my dad was, like, at all.
Yeah.
But it was the weirdest thing because he lost his dad in quite a bad way, and he lost his dad the same kind of 2 weeks that I lost my best mate Joe. And then but he was the manager of the gym that I was at.
Really?
And then we just kind of got chatting and then realised that we both had this massive trauma at the same time.
And this is how long ago?
5 years ago.
Was it 5 years ago?
Yeah. So and then it would, like, from that, that's like a newer friendship. And
so you've made a good friend later in life then?
Yeah, like, which is rare.
I think it's so hard.
Yeah.
I don't reckon I've had anyone that I'm mates with back home where I live who will now be like, what, you're not including me? Like a really good mate. I don't think I've made any for years because...
Thanks, mate.
But it's true.
You know what I mean?
I'm joking. Sorry.
But
you're right.
But that's
hard.
it. Yeah. It is really hard.
It's so hard.
But trauma can do that, though. Trauma can definitely do that. I've seen it happen in so many different ways.
What, bring people together?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, I still
But
have...
you don't want trauma to make mates. Like, why are blokes just shit at becoming friends?
Yeah, I know.
My wife has they're just falling out of her ears every left, right, and centre. There's all these friends all around our house all the time. And I do sometimes enviously look at them and think, I'd love to tell someone what I'm thinking.
But that's it. And I
what I
think, but then on the flip side, it's like, I look at, like, my dad doesn't have any mates.
Yeah.
Like, we genuinely don't have, like, friends. He's like, and he's just happy like that. Like, his best friend is my mum. His best friend is me. His best friend is my sister Harley. And that is it. I couldn't name you one of my dad's mates. And I know that sounds so weird.
Do you go on lads' holidays?
No.
Do you go on lads' holidays?
I went about 2 years ago. I went 2 years ago.
Yeah. I have done in the past. I've not.
I've never been on a lads' holiday, and I'm so jealous of people that do, because I just think, what's it like having that group where you can just, like...
It is fun. Don't get me wrong. But our lads' holidays ain't, like, those types of ones. They're don't want to name any places.
Careful, yeah.
But those types of ones are ones that were like our last holiday that we went on was we all got around and we ended up we knew we wanted to do like a road trip somewhere. And we all had to go on Zoom and basically do a presentation of what the trip that you wanted to do. And I presented to them a tour of the Deep South in America.
Yeah.
And we ended up doing it. And that, that's the last lads' holiday that I went on. It was just 4 of us mates.
You know, the point that I want to make here is I think that like male connection is so important.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to get it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I sort of jealously look at guys that are like doing this sort of stuff. And then I just say to myself, well, I just haven't got the time with 2 or 3 businesses that I'm running, a podcast I'm hosting, young kids. And then I come back to your high functioning depressive, where you're like, well, maybe I'm making that the story, right? Like,
yeah,
maybe I should try and find, or maybe all of us, all men should try and find more time to kind of connect in this way.
Absolutely. But again, with connection, like it comes back to the, Together Against Suicide campaign that we've got, because the data that I was like, wow, which sums it up, in my opinion, is 70% of football fans are more likely to speak to their club than their own GP. Which, on that sense, is pure. That's pure connection. That's what you're talking about. That is. I feel more connected to these people as a man. This is my safe space.
Yeah.
This is where I can be comfortable. I know these people. These people I've shared emotions with already. They've seen me when I'm down. They've seen me when I'm happy. I can talk to them and they can tell me where to go. I'm not going to go into a GP. I'm not going to ask them what I need to do. And that's huge. I mean, it's wild. Like, it's kind of like on its head, isn't it? Realistically, like, there'll be a lot of guys that will listen to this that will kind of say, can they admit to their partners that they'd be more likely to speak to their club than their own GP? I find that fascinating.
But that's why football's so important.
Yeah.
I think it really...
Can you offer any tips, Roman, about how we can all be better allies then? Because we can listen about how we can do it, but how can we do it for other people?
It's so hard, man. Like because everyone is different, you can only ever now look, I've worked in it for 5 years. It's crazy, isn't it? I even use the phrase worked in suicide. That's I shouldn't say that. It's like been...
Why shouldn't you?
Because I'm doing what we were chatting about, which is I'm making it work. When realistically, it's like I've been affected by suicide for 5 years. That's realistically.
Do you know what? I also think one of the things we mustn't keep doing in this area is keep catching the way we talk about it, because I think it makes people worried about. I still see videos on social media where the word suicide is bleeped out.
Yeah, why?
I'm like, what is it? A fucking swear word?
Yeah, man. But that's what I always say. If
we act like that, no one will ever talk about it.
No, of course. But look, I've worked, and I've been affected by suicide for the last 5 years, and I think the amount of times it's even on the day that I went to go and we had the first game week. I got in the car and I was in a black cab, and this cabbie drove me to the Emirates, and literally we got into a conversation, and he was like, "Oh, you're doing that thing around suicide?" And I was like, Yeah. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I tried to kill myself 2 years ago." And then he tells me this whole story. So it's like, it is everywhere, right? And I get those conversations all the time, whether or not it's someone that has said they've tried to take their own life, or they're thinking about it, or it's a lot of family members, girlfriends, partners, mums, dads, sisters, brothers, everything. And it's always the same thing of, what can I do? How can I do it? And I can only see the tips and tricks that definitely work for me. And I know my friend group, the best one I always think is whenever people want to talk about it, and when they want to talk to their friends about it, they'll go, "Look, mate, can we have a chat? And can we sit down and chat about things?" And then they sit down and they're face to face with someone, and then their eye contact is front on. If you go back to Neanderthal times, that means we're going to fight, right? That's confrontational style, face to face, having that conversation. The way how my mum used to do it and used to trick me into doing it was she'd always either hold those conversations for the car, or if we were on a dog walk, right? Because I'm not looking at her, she's not looking at me, and we're just walking, and I can look at other things and distract myself, and all of a sudden I've said stuff that I didn't realize I've said, and I've admitted to almost, or admitted to those feelings. So I think definitely if you're trying or thinking about having those conversations with someone that is potentially going through something, have that in the back of your mind of maybe let's not sit down and don't say to your partner, right, can we sit down and chat about things on the sofa face to face? Do it in a moment where you're in a nice area, or go for a walk or anything like that. That always really helped me. For sure. I think that, and also that thing of not taking yes in this case for an answer. Yeah. Which is, are you all right? And they go, yeah.
I wonder also whether we just ask people, have you had suicidal thoughts? I wonder whether
they've started doing that, yeah.
That just normalizes it.
Well, they've actually encouraged, in some businesses, they've encouraged them to front up that question.
Really?
Which is quite a slap in the face question, but instantly you get quicker to that moment where you decrease the percentage chance.
Oh. Have you ever had suicidal thoughts?
Yeah, but when I was feeling poorly, when I went to the doctor.
Yeah. What about yourself? Have you?
Yeah. And funnily enough, for me, it was when I first moved to London and got a job on Children's BBC. Which has been the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
I had this thing that I've done some research on it. It's called pure it's like intrusive thoughts, OCD, intrusive thoughts. I just thought that I was gonna go mad and murder people and do all sorts of crazy shit, and I genuinely believed it. And then I lost 2 years of my life not daring to do anything about it. And it's so different because back in those days, the only way I found a therapist was there was a high rate phone number in the back of the Daily Mirror. Mm-hmm. It said, if you're struggling with your mental health, call this number. So I rang this number. Yeah. And this person said, I think you definitely need to go and see someone. And then another friend of mine who was on Children's BBC said, I'm seeing a therapist. I went to see this woman, told her what I was thinking, and she went, of course you're not going to do that stuff because you're here telling me you're worried about it.
Yeah.
If you weren't worried about it, then I'd be worried.
Yeah.
But this is the most normal thing in the world, what you're going through.
Yeah.
The weight fell off me. Not physically, emotionally the weight fell off.
Yeah.
And that's why I just think if anyone listens to this, we're pretty much out of time. If people can listen to this and just be like, I'm just going to tell people that I've had some suicidal thoughts. I'm going to tell people that because I still think we dance around it a bit. Like when people are depressed, they don't go, I'm feeling depressed. They go, I feel a bit strange at the moment. Yeah. I wish you'd say what it really feels like. Like when you were depressed, what did it really feel like?
Oh, I mean, I'll tell you. Like I didn't until I made my first documentary. I never, and that was in 2021. I had never told my mum that 3 years prior I properly was planning how I was gonna go, and that was it. And then if it wasn't for like a phone call from her at the right time, I could have had a very different day. And I never admitted to it. For a long time, I would still go to therapy and they'd hit me with that question and I still wouldn't say it.
Yeah.
Because I thought then I'd be caught almost.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like I felt like I'd been caught. Like I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm not there though. I'm not there. But I was, 100% I was there. But then when I was going through those moments, there's very few bits that it's happened to me twice in my life, and it's like pure blackout and time is gone. I have no concept of time. Like everything feels like it's racing at a million miles an hour, and I need it to stop. Is how I could think about it in my head. And I think, and then I was really lucky that obviously my mum called it.
It's exhausting, isn't it? Exhausting when you're struggling with your mental health. Yeah, you don't sleep, and my mum used to say to me, "Why is the bed so wet? Like, what is going on there?"
Yeah,
I'd be like, I don't know. I think I've got a virus.
But that has come as like build up.
Yeah,
that comes as build up. And that's the same with me now. Like I can kind of feel that process coming. When I know I need to then go back into therapy and talk about it.
And what does it feel like when it first starts to?
I don't know. It's for me. It's the can't breathe. For me, it's like it's the anxiety. It's like, have you ever had a panic attack?
Oh.
Have you had a panic attack?
No, I don't think so.
A panic attack is horrible. Like they are the worst things. Like because you convince yourself you're gonna die. Like. It's so strange, like really strange. I've had panic attacks like in front of my sister before, and I'm like, no, I think you should probably call ambulance because I'm gonna die. And she's like, you're not gonna die, you're okay. Like, and you're convinced in your head that everyone else around you is miles off it.
And what's triggered it when it's happened to
you? Can be little things, can be anything, for me, it can be like a form of PTSD from whatever it is that I've been through, like, from different scenarios before in my life, or it can be, I remember like the second time when I, really didn't fully attempt to take my own life, but I mapped it out basically what I was going to do, and you kind of got in that headspace. I got like a tax letter, and it was fine. I could pay the tax. Like, it was, it was no issue, but for some reason it just went, like in your case, what you're talking about, responsibilities, things like that, and it's too much for me. I want to get off the ride. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And it's like, and that's it can be as simple as that, and that's why, like, it always upsets me when I hear about, like, when they again, you look at the reasons as to why people want to take their own life, and so much of it from a guy's perspective boils down to I'm not where I should be in life.
Yeah.
Which again is, surely that's up to the state of what you perceive as society. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what's not where you want to be.
I tell you what I struggled with though when I was down and I went for therapy. The therapist started by going like, I see you, I hear you, I understand you. And in my head, I had a voice going, I don't give a shit about that stuff.
Yeah.
I just want to not feel like a flawed man. I don't want to feel like a weak man. I want to feel like my family can rely on me. I want to feel strong. I want to feel powerful. All of those things that maybe we now talk about as being slightly toxic, right, for the way that men think. But I do think a very big part of this conversation is that we do still feel like we are responsible, that we should make stuff happen, we should protect the people around us, we should look after our wives and our kids. So when you're feeling down, part of it obviously is that you're depressed, and that's horrible in itself, but also part of it is you then feel that makes you a shit version of a man. Yeah. And then I sometimes think in therapy they don't quite get on to that. They're like, can you make me feel useful again, please?
Yeah, but I think I certainly what I take as a positive out of therapy is I feel like I just understand myself better.
Yeah.
And I understand why I've got that way of thinking. And I can see what my brain is trying to do. And as soon as I have that understanding, I go, no, I get that. Oh, that's why I felt like that. You know, I felt like that because this part of my brain wanted to say this, and you know, like I get it all the time. You know, there was a whole part in my life where I had to go to therapy because I didn't like I wanted me and my friend group to be equal, and it wasn't. You know, it was always me that had to try and organize a dinner or something like that. You know, a nice place or stuff like that, and I don't like it. You know, I wanted us to all be on the same platform, and they ended up putting me under like hypnosis and like doing all this stuff, and I ended up telling this whole story of where my mates were down here and I was trying to pull them up, and it was really odd, but it made so much sense in my head. That's why I you know, I always say this. Therapy, you know, saved my life, and it continues to do so. Continues to do so, and that's what. You know, even just whether or not you can classify it from that can be therapy in the sense of like a psychotherapist, a trained psychotherapist, or as again, someone working for a charity that is there just to speak to you and it isn't connected to you in a way. You know, it's just that it's just a wall that you're speaking to that has a face. You know,
I think to wrap this up, I think it would be nice. Yeah. It's been an amazing conversation. If each of us just sort of said something that they think is really relevant. So if someone's listened to this conversation, they're about to turn it off, maybe they're about to tell someone about it, maybe they're about to send this episode on to someone, or maybe they are someone that's struggling themselves. What's the kind of final thing that you would like them to hear from each? You should begin.
I think the number one word that is just so prevalent in my mind always whenever I talk to people that have lost people to suicide or things like that is just stay, because that one conversation will change everything.
Yeah.
And life has its own way of being able to change in an instance. And you know, if you feel like you're not where you are in life, it will come back round, but you have to stay for that. You know, I always, you know, I said this before, it's like, you know, with Joe, my best mate, when he was a big Spurs fan and me being a big Arsenal fan, that was, you know, quite funny. But even like after he died, I would go back to his grave and I would always, you know, do the man thing of trying to make a joke out of it every time that I would leave, and I'd, you know, kind of, you know, touch his gravestone. I'd be like, I love you, mate. And then I'd be like, by the way, Spurs still haven't won anything, you know. And now that's changed. And you know, I cried when they won. Fucking hell, it makes me feel much better. No, it's football. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's even just football. It's just like, you know, if he just stayed, you know, he would have seen that. What great moment, you know, for them, you know, winning, you know, and that would have brought him so much happiness. And that might have been something that he just needed in that moment. And, you know, it makes those things make me sad. So that's what I'd say, stay, yeah.
I want to draw on the high functioning depression that I was telling you about, because Dr. Judith talks about the 5 V's. The first 2 of them are the ones easy to remember. The first one is just find someone to vent to. And then the second one is then that validates your feelings. So it's not that what we've said here is feeling suicidal isn't unusual. It's your brain doing its job.
Yeah.
Normal. But that start, I didn't know that about just being able to vent and say it reduces the likelihood of it. Practice the 2 V's.
Yeah, of course.
And I would just say that how you're feeling, no matter how you're feeling, it is normal. The fact that the human brain is capable of having these feelings means that it's normal. Like, the brain can do this. And I think this sense that I'm feeling in an abnormal way, or the things I'm thinking are abnormal, I think that is so often the reason why people don't dare share it, because they have this sense of shame, sense of judgment, the fact they shouldn't be feeling like this because, you know, they've got so many good things in their life. But how can we be here for 80, or what we get 4,000 weeks on average, right? How can we have 4,000 weeks and expect that every single one of those weeks we're going to feel okay? Like, it's just unrealistic to think that you're either a happy person or a sad person, a depressed person or a joyful person. Like you will go through peaks and troughs. And I actually like the fact that all three of us have been in therapy. One of us has been on antidepressants. All of us have had issues and things in their lives, and we can sit here and talk about it. Because the other thing to remind people is, if they're at a really low ebb, you feel often there is no way out. You don't see a way out.
Yeah.
And it's only now you can sit here and realise that the person with the mental health challenges is probably the strongest person in the room, because they find their way forwards.
Yeah.
Look, thank you so much for coming on.
No, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
And it's also a very nice way to remember your great friend as well. I think that's another thing that's important. You know, so when I was a teenager, my grandma died by suicide, took her own life. And I did a service recently about suicide.
Yeah.
And at the end they said, write something about the person that you'd love them to know. And I was like, what do you do? So I wrote down, dear grandma, you gave more than you took, right?
Yeah.
And the point I was trying to make was, we often think about what you lose when someone dies in this way. You get annoyed by all the shit they took away from you, like the chance to have a laugh with them about the fact that Spurs had finally won a trophy.
Yeah.
But I think it's also important to remember all that they gave is an awful lot more than they took, for sure.
Absolutely. And you know, that's it. You know, I think again, it was really emotional about it, because just, you know, when we had that first game week, and now like, even like when we look at a Premier League match now and you see Together Against Suicide going around the thing, you kind of like, you know, in my head I just talk to Joe and I'm like, fuck me, we did it. Like, do you know what I mean? So it's cool. It's really cool.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks, man. Thanks, guys.